Hello everyone and welcome back to the Distinct Mastering YouTube channel. My name is Freddie. Today we're going to be talking about the Soundtoys Microshift. This is an interesting plugin, and if you're not cautious, it can really do some damage. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to using it in your music productions, how you can be careful and not damage your music productions when it comes to phase, and what you could do to get wider tracks while using the Soundtoys Microshift. Let's get into it. Okay, before we begin, let's talk about what the Microshift is. Basically, it's a stereo harmonizer, and it uses very ever so slight amounts of detune. And what it's trying to replicate is an old Eventide Harmonizer. The guys from Soundtoys actually worked at Eventide and modeled this. There are 3 settings on both the Microshift and the little Microshift that emulate presets from an old H3000 multi-effects processor by Eventide. What it can do is basically spread things out, make it wider. Now I have a couple ways of doing these types of widening tricks, and I have some videos. I'll leave you some links down below on other methods to getting your track wide. But when using Microshift, you need to be very careful with phase correlation. So let's get into what Microshift is, how it works, and I'm going to show you some cool things. Let's go. First of all, here's Microshift right here. And this is the default state. Well, not technically, this is the default state, but you have a mix knob, you have a focus knob, which will basically create a crossover point for when the Microshift starts to work, which can be good for if you're dealing with sounds that have a lot of low frequency content. You can kind of dial in your sweet spot. There are 3 styles here. The first 2 are modeled after the Eventide H3000, like I mentioned before. And the third one is actually modeled after an AMS Neve unit. And then you have a detune knob, which will give you a minimum and a maximum amount of detune, and then how tight or loose you want your delay. Just like all Soundtoys plugins, you've got presets and you've got the information, settings, and bypass, and you can save and flip between the presets. They're all the same at the top. So let's get into Plugin Doctor and really see what's going on under the hood. Okay, here is Plugin Doctor with Microshift. Interestingly enough, you can see that the harmonic content is not fixed. If I go to dry, 100%, there we are, flat response. As I start to increase, you can see the harmonic content is changing very rapidly. And if I change the focus, there you see my focal point moving. The detune is making it more wild. Well, no, not really. But let's see the styles. See, the styles really do change how it works. And then you have this, which makes it loose, makes it even more detuned, as you can see. Just more spread. And then here it gets a little tighter. You see the lines are a little closer together. It's interesting because this thing at 100%, it loses all that top. So now, because the Microshift is dealing with phase, this may not be the best graph to look at. Let's flip over to phase. So now you see we've got some interesting things going on in the phase. This is why you need to be extremely careful with the Microshift. You can really throw things out of phase and it could really mess up your mono compatibility. Try using this thing in very small dosages is my recommendation. As you can see here, from about all the way down dry to about 12 o'clock is where it starts to, after 12 o'clock, it just starts to get wacky. You know, see that? Boom, 12 o'clock, maybe 1, 2 o'clock, but even there, it's getting a little wacky. So this is the Microshift in Plugin Doctor. Let's get into Ableton and check some more things out about this. Okay, we're back into Ableton, and I've got a phase scope here, and I've got a 2-bus control, which can tell me the phase correlation as well. I have a sine wave loaded up with a serum, just sine, and I'll play it for you. And I'm going to go ahead and mute the Microshift. So the Microshift is bypassed. Let me turn it on. Wow. Instantly, I've got width. I love the sound of that, but as you can see, my phase correlation is getting slightly off. And if I go to mono, you can hear it wavering. That is obviously what we saw was happening in Plugin Doctor. taking the mix 50-50, my mono compatibility stays intact, doesn't give me any phase cancellation. That's not doing much here. Well, actually it is, because now we're moving the focus past the point where it can see it. So, interesting. So this one sounds a little... To me, it sounds like as if you had modulated an LFO on the sine and you're just getting different LFO shapes, but that's technically not what's happening. It's all related to the detuning and I guess the amount of delay and all the various parameters that go into creating these presets. See, here's minimum, max. So there you get more fluttering, more wobbling. You also get more correlation. So it speeds it up. Here it's wider. Here it's staying a little bit more in bounds. You know, you see it's just like staying in one pocket, but tightening it up, loosening it up. So yeah, and so check out the genometer. You can see that it's got a perfect, I don't even know what you would call that, almost like an infinity symbol. So this is ideally kind of the region I'd stay under if using this, because here at 50%, when I go to mono, it still collapses to mono relatively well. And it gives me the phase, but in stereo it gives me the width. I love the sound of this. And it still works in mono, but that's just a straight sine wave. Imagine if there's a lot more complicated content happening. So I would always recommend when using this plugin that you check your frequency content and collapse it to mono and just verify that everything is still intact. Okay, I'm working on this track right now and I actually used Microshift in a few places and I'm going to show you what it can do in real life example. Here we have it on my vocal bus, so I'll go ahead and play you a loop right here. Let's actually play this section. So I have a preset. Can you feel it? It's the thunder. It's the thunder. It's the thunder. Can you feel it? It's the thunder. So when it's bypassed, you hear the vocals just sitting in the middle of the mix. When it's enabled, you kind of hear it spread a little bit. Now, the funny thing is about this vocal, this was done with a scratch, and then I layered a regular vocal recording from here. The scratch was done at my home studio, and it was just supposed to be temporary, but I liked them together. There was something about the scratch that the way I set it, and so I needed to keep that original tone. But I didn't like how they were laying on top of each other, so the Microshift really helped in getting them to be a little spread out, but still keeping it in place. Here, let's go 100% wet. So now you really hear it. And then once again, off. The cool thing is it's giving, if you listen carefully, it's giving it, I'm saying, can you feel it? It's the rhythm. And it's giving it a rhythm to go along with that based on how I've set the delay and the detune. And it's on the third setting here. So you can get some interesting movement, a little bit of width, just you got to use it very sparingly. Here's another sound that I used it on. I'm going to go ahead and solo this. Bringing this up. Without it, it just kind of sounds buried in the mix. You can barely hear it. It's just right in the center, and it's just not working very well. And As you bring in the Microshift, all of a sudden it just kind of expands out, and there it is. But I want this sound to be subdued and just deep in the back. And that's the beautiful thing about this Microshift is I did go over what I said, but you know, it's such a low tone. Let me turn this up so you can hear it a little bit more. Now there's a lot of other things happening here. I've got a shaper box, wider, some side chain, filtering, and even a pan man. If you missed my video on the Soundtoys Pan Man, it's a good one. I'll leave you a link down below. And then turning this back on, you can hear just this nice movement. Go back to where it was in the mix. So it's kind of, the pan man is making it bounce from side to side, and then you've got the side chain that's ducking it, and you've got whatever I did with the shaper box, which is a great plugin. If you're curious about it and you want me to make a video on that, drop me a comment down below and I will consider doing so. But you know, the Microshift is a cool, unique plugin. I don't use it often, but you know, like I said, use it sparingly. You could use it on synths, pads, vocals. I would be cautious using it on bass and low-end instruments like kick drums, because you don't want to screw up any phase in those types of sounds. Maybe if you had like a top bass and you wanted to try to use Microshift for something like that, it'd be similar to using the detune feature, but you're not really using detune features on the low end of your tracks, so you got to be careful there. Other than that, you know, just experiment and have fun. Just watch your phase when it comes to using the Microshift. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel and then hitting that bell notification so you can stay up to date with future videos. And then please do hit the like button. Any comments that you do leave do inspire me to continue this. And if you'd like to see future videos, please let me know in the comments. If you want to see more from the channel, whether that be live streams or memberships, I'd love to hear your feedback. I do post regularly in the community, and I do appreciate all of you that do leave comments and participate in the trivia in there. It's a little bit of fun and just some upcoming info, but I'd love to hear more of what you guys are looking for. So thank you again. My name is Freddie from Distinct Mastering, and have a great day. We'll see you on the next one.